I'm Jen, and this is The Pilot Principle, the podcast where I typically judge a series by its pilot episode and just its pilot episode. Now, if that sounds like something you're into or have questions about, have a browse and see if you can find an episode that suits. Today, on the other hand, we are doing something a little different. As the clocks tick down to the 60th anniversary edition of one of British television's most intergenerationally loved programmes, the sci-fi series Doctor Who, I've managed to find a loophole in the pilot principle, which means that I get to judge the pilot episode for each Doctor. You're welcome. Da-da-dun, da-da-dun, da-da-da-da-da-da-dun, da-da-dun, da-da-dun, da-da-da, ooh, da-dun-dun, da-dun-dun, da-dun, doo-doo-doo, da-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo. Just be glad I didn't try to make the sound of the TARDIS. Firstly, just to clear the air, I lied. I will not be looking at the pilot episode in each and every Doctor. The phraseology just sounded better. What I'll really be doing is starting from the 9th Doctor and working my way to the present. Not just because I decided to do this very late in the game, but because when Doctor Who was revived in the 2000s, it had been 16 years since the last series ended and the 7th Doctor was then played by Sylvester McCoy. So picking up at the revival of the 9th Doctor sounded like a good way to go. Right, if you've been here before, you know the drill, but if you're new here, this is how it goes. I start with the credits, let you know who's who, run through some facts and figures and key bits of information and just some interesting tidbits. Then I'll talk about the pilot synopsis, the first 10 minutes, the principal characters, and then in this case, because it's a special, we'll just see how it goes from there. Okay, let's get started. Here's what we're working with for Doctor Who Take 9. So when Doctor Who was brought back, it aired on the 26th of March 2005. Oh, 2005. Can you believe that was almost 20 years ago? I'm not even going to tell you where I was in 2005, what I was doing, because I don't want to make anybody feel old or young. So let's just move forward to the pilot title, which is Rose. And we quickly realise in the episode that Rose is the name of the Doctor's companion. So, it's quite nice because even though Doctor Who is back, they've made it not just about the Doctor being back, it's also about his new companion. It's a nice sort of way to pair the two. It's like, oh, Doctor Who, Rose. It's quite nice. The episode length, you all know I will be over the moon with this. It's a clean 45 minutes. You see, back in 2005, they knew how to do it right with an episode length. None of this hour nonsense, none of this 88-minute nonsense. I'm looking at you, the Continental from the world of John Wick. Just a nice, easy breezy, 3/4 of an hour episode of television. Rose was written by Russell T Davies, who is the showrunner as well. Russell T Davies is also known for being the writer of the series Queer as Folk, a very English scandal, It's a Sin, and Years and Years. And I loved Years and Years. It's a BBC One drama that spans watching a family over a series of years. And it was just so well done. I actually need to go back and rewatch Years and Years. It's just such a great series. As part of the Doctor Who universe, Russell T Davies also wrote episodes for Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures. The episode Rose was directed by Keith Boak, who has done a number of standard British television programming. So he's directed episodes of EastEnders, Holby City, Waterloo Road, Silent Witness, and really randomly the American series For the People, which I believe only lasted for 2 series, and it's a Shondaland program which starred series killer Britt Robertson and Reggie Jean Page, who most people now know as the Duke, aka Simon Bassett, in the Shondaland Netflix series Bridgerton. And if there's one thing to know about Shonda Rhimes, it's she loves to keep it in the family. Now, in terms of cast, the 9th Doctor is played by Christopher Eccleston, who has been he's got quite a diverse filmography. He's one of those faces that I sort of recognise from being in a lot of things, but couldn't quite place one thing that I know him for over everything else. But he starred in the movies 24-Hour Party People, 28 Days Later, and Thor: The Dark World. He's also starred in the series The A Word, Dodger, and he's going to soon play a principal role in True Detective. So go on with it, Christopher Eccleston. The Doctor's companion, Rose Tyler, is played by Billie Piper, who I hope most people know used to be a singer in the late 90s, early noughties. Because we want to. Because we want to. No? Yes? Anyway, she retired from music in 2003 and then embarked fully on an acting career. She played Fanny Price in the BBC adaptation of Jane Austen's book Mansfield Park. She's also known to a lot of people from the series Secret Diary of a Cool Girl. She also starred in Penny Dreadful, and she's more recently known to people from the Sky One program I Hate Susie, which she also co-created. Is it still Sky One? I think they may have rebranded to Sky Showcase or something, but yeah. If there's one thing about Doctor Who is that throughout the series there are a number of familiar faces. In the pilot episode specifically, it stars Noel Clarke, who is known for the Kidulthood series, which he starred in, wrote and directed. And the pilot episode also stars Mark Benton, again one of those faces that I know but couldn't quite pick him out of a lineup. He starred in a series called Barbara, Waterloo Road and Hustle. Does anybody remember Hustle? Hustle used to be one of my favourite programmes. It's about a group of con artists and they're almost like Robin Hood type characters because they only steal from the like greedy and the deserved, but also, let's face it, they're just con artists. That was a great, great BBC programme. And speaking of the BBC, Doctor Who aired on BBC One, still airs on BBC One. You can actually currently go back and watch all episodes, I believe, from the 2005 revival on BBC iPlayer today. Moving on to the pilot synopsis. An invasion is imminent. The Nestene consciousness has landed in London and they are here to take over the human race. What the Nestene consciousness can do is that they can make plastic come to life. So they create these things called the living plastic. A mysterious man in a blue box has arrived to defeat them, and he accidentally enlists the help of a shop assistant. And that's the pilot episode in a nutshell without giving too much away. But what I can give away is the first 10 minutes. Now, I was always taught that the first 10 minutes of a pilot script or a feature film script is where you need to capture your audience. And that's why I always delve into the first 10 minutes of a pilot episode. The first 10 minutes of Rose, the pilot episode for the revival of Doctor Who, starts with a zoom in on Earth. So we're in space and we're zooming into Earth, but not just Earth. We go to England, and not just England, we are in London. And it's 7:30 a.m. an alarm has gone off and we watch the day in the life of a young woman. She gets up, has some breakfast, kisses her mum, leaves for work. She takes the bus. She arrives at a department store, which is where she works, folds clothes and, department assistant stuff. And then it's the end of her shift. So it's quite a high octane first sort of 2 minutes as she wakes up and sort of like cut to, cut to, cut to. And then things slow down and get a bit eerie. She heads down into the basement to search for the electrician for some reason, to give him the lottery money, which, let's face it, makes absolutely no sense, but that's not the point. She walks into a room filled with mannequins, and as she gets further into the room, the door closes and locks behind her. She can't open the door and she thinks this whole thing is a big joke. She continues to think it's a joke when the mannequins in this storeroom come to life and start congregating towards her. She's fearing for her life at this stage, still thinking it's a joke, and then a hand appears out of nowhere, and then a face, and then a single word: run. Together, Rose and the mysterious man run out of the department store and get to safety, all the while being chased by these mannequins who have for some reason come to life. The man gets Rose out of the department store and tells her to forget everything she's just seen. And after the adrenaline-filled moment, he says to her, "I'm the doctor, by the way. What's your name?" She replies, "Rose." He says, "Nice to meet you, Rose. Now run for your life." And after a brief pause, she does. And at first she thinks, okay, did I just make up this whole thing? Is this whole thing still a joke? That's until the building that she was just in explodes. The next day, Rose's alarm goes off at 7:30 a.m. and it's not just that she no longer has a job to go to because somebody blew up the department store where she worked. Her world has changed. She just doesn't know it yet. And that's the first 10 minutes of Rose. So there are really just two characters to look at, the Doctor and the Doctor's companion. So this Doctor, the Ninth Doctor, played by Christopher Eccleston, he's got the personality of a 25-year-old, I'd say. I don't know, I thought about this for quite some time. I don't want to say 40-year-old, but he's got quite a youthfulness to him, but even though he doesn't look that youthful. So I would, peg his personality to be about 25 because everything is still to be discovered. There's a jauntiness to the way he walks. There's a openness to him, but there's also a cynical side. he's constantly calling humans stupid and apes and, really condensing down their lives and their daily activities to nothing. So there's something definitely a bit, it's not cynical, a bit rude about him, to be honest, but rude in a way that only a jaded 25-year-old can be. He donned a leather jacket, not like a biker leather jacket, almost like a leather blazer. So there's something about him that feels both young, which he is, and old, which he is at the same time. So that kind of works. Oh yeah, and he's northern because everywhere's got a north. It just adds, I don't know, there's something just quite distinctive and human about him having a northern accent, which is really lovely. So this doctor, our doctor, the Ninth Doctor, is the latest Doctor. So the last time we saw him was in the 1996 movie where he was played by Paul McGann. So he's recently regenerated. And so I always love those sort of little comments you get from a new doctor. And so we watch him look at himself in the mirror for the first time and he says, could have been worse. Look at those ears. And I love stuff like that. He's buying into it. So we're buying into it that this is not just, even though he's the same person, he's a different person every time. So yeah, I love those little quirks. And the doctor, when he gets a new companion, we don't know how long it's been really in terms of the way time works for him. And what's quite nice and also heartbreaking is that there's a scene where Rose is peppering him with questions. And he tells her again to forget everything and just to go back to her normal life. And he walks away. He looks heartbroken because clearly he wants her to stay. Also, with each new doctor, there's always a little catchphrase in there. And with Christopher Eccleston's doctor, his catchphrase is fantastic. Everything is fantastic. And I think it's fantastic. With every doctor, there is a companion, and as we learn very early on in the episode, that is Rose Taylor. Rose Taylor she's feisty, she's curious, she's happy, she understands her place in the world, and she's a brilliant personification of us, humans, sort of rattling through life, going through the motions of the day-to-day with little courage, but sort of desperate for the opportunity to just grab life by the briskets, there's nothing special about her, and that's the beauty of Rose. She's just human. She doesn't think much of herself, but she believes that she should have the opportunity to be more. And isn't that like most of us? Look at Doctor Who being a sociological experiment and making us thinking about our place in the world and, giving us a little bit of an existential crisis. We love that. The Doctor and his companion are two sides of the same coin. And with the Ninth Doctor and Rose Taylor, I sort of see a more of a older brother, older cousin, younger cousin type relationship. The Doctor, in a sense, could be seen as the older cousin who teases her into taking risks and to doing more, because Rose's world is small, but she clearly wants it to be big. And the Doctor sees that. She's no nonsense, but she's got a big heart and she fights to remind him of his humanity, or to be human, which is to, have emotion and to think about the little things and not just focus on the grand scheme. So even though he might be an alien, he looks human, and that's enough for us to want him to, in a way, act human. And Rose, we imagine, will draw that out from him throughout the course of the series. My favourite line from the pilot episode is less than a line, it's a word, it's 3 letters, it's run. It's giving, come with me if you want to live. You jump, I jump, Jack. Mr. Darcy helping Elizabeth Bennet into the carriage at Netherfield Park. It changes everything. And the fact that it's in a northern accent makes it that much sweeter. This wasn't my first foray into the world of Doctor Who. I have watched Rose before. I've watched it a few times over the years, but it has been a while. And all I can say is that rewatching it, I know they say never to get into cars with strangers, but nobody said anything about getting into a blue box with a man from another planet, because, how can you resist? And just the episode itself, 2005, as I said, it was quite some time ago. And there's a lovely nostalgic quality to it. The quality of the program itself is not great because this is before the days of high definition and 1080p and 4K. But the quality of it gives it a nice nostalgic feel. The clothes, I spotted a Jane Norman bag. The double-decker buses aren't yet eco-friendly. There's just it's nostalgic. I think that's what Doctor Who is to a lot of people. It's nostalgic and it's new, even though it's done again and again and again. The pilot episode Rose definitely felt like the start of something. You know, we were Rose, tired of waking up, going to work, coming home, eating fish and chips, and doing it all again. We wanted to live, and this episode really gives us the chance to live vicariously through Rose as she goes off on her adventures through time and space with the Doctor in his blue box. It's time to regenerate, people. Christopher Eccleston's tenure as the Ninth Doctor only saw one series and one companion, but it was the start of something, and I think for that reason alone, it will hold a special place in a lot of people's hearts, not just for the new generation who got into Doctor Who with the rebirth through Christopher Eccleston, but as well to all the people who had waited 16 years since the last series, but finally had it revived through the Ninth Doctor. Now, as we say goodbye to the Ninth Doctor, this was his goodbye to us. Rose, before I go, I just want to tell you, you were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And do you know what? So was I. And, oh, do you know what? Tears. Tears, people, tears every time. What were some of your favourite moments from Christopher Eccleston's tenure as the revived Ninth Doctor? Let me know over on Twitter/X @PilotPrinciple, and I'll catch you on the next Doctor Who special as we discuss David Tennant's introduction as the 10th Doctor.